What's up, everybody? This is your host of the Most Philly Gym coming at you guys. Another live stream, another Eagles roundtable. The monthly roundtables continue. This is the second one that we've done this year, so we're gonna try to keep this going as a monthly thing. But I got Lindy in zone here, Lindy and me, starting the LinkedIn podcast tomorrow. Make sure you guys don't miss that. It's going to be at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, first episode. Then we got Mitch in the building, checking in. What is going on, Mitch? And then we got AK Eagles, who's coming off the IR list. This guy's got I don't know how many injuries that he's dealing with, but hopefully we can get him activated and get him on the field for some work by training camp. What's up, guys?
What's happening, guys? What's happening?
Chilling, guys. So, yeah, man, I guess the first things first, let's react to this past NFL draft. The Eagles had a lot of good draft picks that they made, a lot of good trades that they made also, man. So, I guess we'll just have this be more of an open conversation. So, what do you guys think was the best move that Howie Roseman and the entire Eagles front office made during the draft? Anybody that wants to take it, you guys go right ahead.
Well, real quick, my question is, does it have to be a pick? Or can it actually be?
It doesn't have to be a pick.
All right, cool. Whoever wants to go first can go.
All right. I guess I'll go first, and that's the trade to get A.J. Brown. I mean, hey, we've been dying to get a receiver next to Devontae Smith, and we got one of the top 10 receivers who is not afraid, who really good, has a good catch radius, can catch the deep ball. I love this move. I just love it, and it makes our offense so much better as Tennessee's offense crumbles. Because I don't know if you guys been seeing Ryan Tannehill, Tennessee social media and stuff like that. It's pretty bad over there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going with the A.J. Brown trade.
A.J. Brown. Okay. Not a bad pick. Lindy, what you got?
I felt like I should limit my dialogue a little bit and not go too much into detail. Jim and I are going to be doing the same thing tomorrow, so I shouldn't try.
He doesn't want to spoil anything, but what you got? What you got, Lindy?
Well, I mean, if I could make it short and sweet without getting into too much detail, not spoiling any surprises on the coverage that we want to do tomorrow, so I don't copy and paste anything from my mind. But I felt like the entire package as a whole, not really predicated on one move or another. You could pretty much say, the way that the Eagles constructed this sequence is what allowed them to do the first move after the next. Well, we already know that they jumped the Ravens to get Jordan Davis, and had they not do that, then they would have to settle for another selection, and it put them in position to maintain pick 18 to make a deal with Tennessee and really only do a pick swap, cycling between the first round selections, and just give up their higher third rounder 101 instead of 83. And it just really that kind of positive domino effect stemmed from there. So as a whole, like I said, you're in a great position to where you were able to create a foundation across the board when it comes to the skill positions that they have really, some of them that they have neglected for quite some time.
Gotcha. So, okay, what are we feeling right now? Or did everybody already go yet?
No, I gotta go.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, listen, man. What did we do best? I will say this: as a whole, like Lindy was saying, man, we didn't reach. You know, he used strategery. You know, he was very tactical about how he used his draft picks and what picks he traded and which ones he didn't. You know, because if he would have traded 83 instead of 101, Dean's probably not on this team. You know what I mean? So you look at it, and we didn't reach. We let the board come to us. We took what we felt was good for our team, and you really saw a lot more. Just a lot more poise up there, you know, and you could start
Right.
seeing belief between GM and coach. And I believe you guys saw this year there's actually a really good dynamic growing between coach and GM right now, you know, and I believe this is only going to get better as the years go on. So I'm super stoked, man. You know, this is a side of Howie we haven't seen in a long time, if not ever. And, you know, I hope he don't lose it because everything he did this year was 100% spot on.
Yeah, man. I think you guys make a lot of really good points.
Chess over
Also-
checkers, AK, right?
Yeah, you know,
definitely.
I actually agree with Mitch on this one. I think if I had to say what the best move is or what my favorite move was, AJ Brown has to be up there because and I kind of like the point that AK made as well because I think there was a bit of a smoke screen going on with how much it was reported that the Eagles wanted Jameson Williams, and according to what Howie said, this trade was kind of being discussed for at least 24 hours. So I feel like Howie and everybody wanted other people to believe that they wanted Jameson when in reality they wanted AJ, and AJ has a great relationship with the quarterback. So I feel like that's something that people can't really undervalue because that's going to play a really big role in having good chemistry on the team between these guys. Because you got Devontae that's known Jalen. They played with Jalen for a season with Alabama and played with him for a season in Philly. So there's a lot of continuity and a lot of good chemistry being built there. And then AJ Brown, he's known Jalen for years and they've worked out. So I gotta say that's probably my favorite move and, in my opinion, the best move that we made of the entire draft.
Now I just have one thing I'm kind of iffy about, and that's the tight end we drafted, Grant. I still can't pronounce his last name. Give me time, I'll get it. Caltera, whatever. Yo, what's up, normal guy? Make sure you subscribe to Philly Jim and everyone here, man. Appreciate it. That's my guy right there.
And all the links are in the description.
Yeah. Give a sub to everybody. That would be great.
Appreciate it.
The one thing I have an iffy about with this tight end, I get he played in 2019 in Oklahoma with Jalen Hurts. I get all that. Great pick. We didn't get a secondary in the draft. I get why we went tight end because we all want Whiteside out of the door. So I can see why we got that. But it's just we didn't go secondary. So for me, it's just I could have lived without it. But if we got him, I can live with it. So it's just
Completely understand.
Can I take this
that's
one?
understandable.
Okay,
Can I take this one? Yeah, no lie, man. This is the way I look at it. I know a lot of people were kind of shocked about the CB safety position. We didn't go anywhere with it. I understand maybe Xavier Rhodes might be an option because he's an ex-Colt, you know, and Nick. But listen, I don't want a vet, to be honest. I love actually what they're doing because when you sit here and you look at this team, Marcus Epps played pretty dang good last year for us for just being thrown in there. Okay, so I want to see him improve, and the only way he's going to improve is being on the field. You know, you gave away Zach Ertz last year at trade deadline for Tay Gowan. I want to see what Tay's got. I want to see what McPherson's got, what Josh Jobe got, and Goodrich got. You know, I want to see all these guys competing. It's time we start getting our own talent and developing our own and stop getting people seconds. You know, we got these guys for a reason. And in fact, I believe our cornerback room looks really good over this year compared to the last 6 years that we've had. So, you know, we got these young guys for a reason. We need to utilize them and use them. So I say we stick with what we got.
Okay. It's pretty interesting. I would say that, I know a lot of people are concerned about the secondary too. I'm not going to say I'm not concerned about it, but for me, when I'm building a team, it's always about the pass rush. It's always about the pass rush because if your pass rush is good enough, you can mask like a lot of deficiencies with your secondary.
Yeah.
We won this. That's one of the reasons we won the Super Bowl. I mean, we had Jalen Mills and Darby, and you had Patrick Robinson in the slot, but our pass rush was really good, and we had a good rotation with, we could take guys out and put guys in, and everyone was staying fresh, and they were getting to the quarterback, and Eagles defense was really good that year. Secondary, not so much, but it didn't really affect us too much. So I feel like as much as we have improved our pass rush, bringing in Jordan Davis, bringing in Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham comes back, Fletcher Cox for another year, Hargrave for another year, Milton Williams second year. We got some pretty good guys along the defensive line, and then you got Nakobe Dean, who's a guy that was a really good leader for the Georgia defense, and he was able to make all the right calls for them, and kind of quarterbacking that Georgia defense to an extent. So I feel like having all these guys here could mask a lot of deficiencies that we have on the back end. However, I'm not saying I wouldn't like to see us make a move for a safety or another corner, because I would be all about it. But I feel like our team's much improved on both sides of the ball for sure.
Well, and also, how do you guys feel about Shashir? Because he's also a safety as well. And for what little bit he played last year, I didn't think he was that bad. We did pick him up almost at the end of the year, so he didn't know much. But for what little he knew, I thought he played pretty well.
Well, Sasha Ray ended up converting to more of a special teams type of position because he was viewed as one of the captains of that squad when it used to be a guy like Craig James that would substitute between the defense and the special teams unit. So that's why they gave Andre the money that he did, or that he got in the offseason, just because of the value that he brings to special teams over defense.
Completely understandable. All right. Well, this whole AJ Brown situation, I want to talk about it because I've seen mixed feelings when it comes to him getting a certain amount of money as a wide receiver. I was caught a little bit off guard when we made the deal, just because I didn't think we're the type of team that pays wide receivers a bunch of money. That's why I didn't think we were going to go after Deebo Samuel or any of these wide receivers. But I'm not mad at it. Like, I feel like people don't understand that the market of wide receivers is just continuing to go up. So you have dudes like Christian Kirk that's not, really proven anything without having a single 1,000-yard season for his career, and then Jacksonville gives him quite a big payday. So that's just the way it's going to be, and that's what the 49ers are probably going to have to figure out with Deebo. So I just feel like for A.J. Brown, for that deal, I think he's worth it. I think he's been consistent since he's been in the NFL. He's still young, so I don't feel like he's even played his best football yet. So I feel like when he does begin to play his best football and we really see how high of a ceiling that he has, then I feel like some people might be saying, hey, you know what? Eagles got a pretty good bargain for this contract.
Jim, we did get a pretty good bargain. I want to know real fast, do any of you guys know what our whole offense costs us this year, cap-wise? What our whole offense is?
Probably not a lot.
It's $19.2 million. Everyone. Our whole offense.
11 starters?
That is amazing, dude. They're less than $20 million. Your whole offense, that's Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard, Miles Sanders, your whole offensive line. Less than $20 million. That is ridiculous, man. So if anyone wants to say we're overpaying, you're wrong. we only are overpaying his last 2 years. I believe that's when it jumps up to like the 22 mil mark. Is the last 2 years of his contract. Other than that, it's chump change. It seriously is.
I'm all about that. Lindy, what you got?
Well, I think we've known for quite a while now that Howie is, that Howie's quite a, mastermind-esque when it comes to these team-friendly, cap-friendly deals. And the way I see it is, Howie's not going to necessarily pull the trigger on the player unless he has three things really. Well, for one, when it comes to age, A.J. Brown's as old as Jalen Hurts. They're both about 23, 24 years old. He still has 1 year left on his rookie deal before the extension kicks in, since he is only entering his fourth year. I think the second thing that he looks for is a schematic fit. When you look at A.J. Brown as a player and what he brings to this offense, and without me getting into detail here, because I would like to save a lot of it, but I think we all know what a guy like AJ brings to the table when it comes to the offense, with him being the perfect complement to a guy like Devontae Smith. I mean, that has been discussed for months now, since it has been said that AJ could very well be on the trade block, depending what the Titans do in the draft. And, well, they end up getting his replacement, who was mocked to be a comp to A.J. Brown and Treylon Burks. So they're not really, I mean, depending how you take it for them, are they really missing out on anything outside of true NFL production? Yes and no. I mean, Treylon's not the polished, he's not as polished of a route runner as AJ is, and Treylon as a receiver, there's times where he can burn his man, but much like a physical receiver, he uses his size to his advantage, and he is going to, quote unquote, box out his defender in coverage, and that's that's what a lot of Treylon's game is predicated on. If you have the measurables, you have to use them, and that's it doesn't boil down to anything simpler than that. The third thing that I think Howie looks for is production. And when you compare the scenario of AJ Brown's availability at that point in time, I think that's what made a whole lot more sense into just going with another rookie to try and pair with a Devontae Smith going into his second year, who's still learning the offense, who's still learning to be an NFL receiver. Mm-hmm. That's where a lot better of a compliment comes in, because you have a guy that's still young, but he's already been there and done that to a level of Pro Bowl type of performances, and that's where the difference comes into play. And that's the biggest thing that makes this as attractive as it was to a guy like Howie Roseman. And, well, credit to him for getting this deal done, but if it hadn't been for the Titans to give him up so easily, we probably would have had to spend a lot more for his services. So kudos to both teams on getting this deal done.
Yeah, you know what? I think you made a lot of good points there, Lindy. But I want to know something. While we're on this subject, I just want to bring something up, because I think we have an idea of what the wide receiver core is going to look like for this season. So AJ is going to obviously be our top wide receiver. Devontae is probably going to be our second wide receiver. And then Quez will be our third wide receiver / possible slot receiver. So this is a question I want to ask, because you also kind of forget that Zach Pascal was brought in. He's more of like the teacher's pet of Nick Sirianni. He loves this guy. I know he's nothing to write home about or anything, but Nick loves him, and it is what it is. Greg Ward, despite his lack of getting a lot of playing time or not getting a lot of playing time, when he was able to play, he made some good plays. He made some plays in the red zone and whatnot. So it begs the question, if you're Jalen Rager, Jalen deleted all his like stuff on social media about the Eagles. So, man, if you're Jalen Rager, are you screwed right now? Because even on special teams, is his name Britton Covey, the undrafted?
Yep.
Guy?
Britton Covey, yeah.
The guy's fast. The guy can run. And you
Mm-hmm.
bring in Devin, the sprinter
Devon Allen,
from Oregon. These two guys is going to be competing with Jalen Rager for kickoff returner / punt returner. So the one place where you think Jalen Rager kind of has an edge, he doesn't really have an edge. And he definitely doesn't have an edge against, any of these other wide receivers. So this guy, to me, this guy's screwed. I'm not sure if he's going to make the team. I think that the only way I see him making the team is how he tries to justify him having a roster spot. Oh, he was a first-round pick, and he's only in his third season or whatever the case may be. But other than that, I just don't see it going well for him.
Well, the way you have to break it down here is that, well, there's two positions to keep in mind where there's going to be a lot of competition. And it's between the receivers and the corners. Well, in the case for Rager, with the acquisitions that the Eagles have brought in, across the board, between offense and special teams, Howie is putting him in a position where the cards are stacked against him. Especially when we're talking about that, he has to fight for not just a top spot on the depth chart, but he has to fight for a roster spot. And whether it's through the two phases that Jalen Rager is a part of. Yeah, he's going to have some difficulty when the Eagles, bring in a group of guys that they could send to the Olympics for relays and whatnot, for how fast Britton and Devon are, and what the explosiveness that they would bring, which is something that they were hoping for out of Rager that he hasn't provided up to this point. And keep in mind, Devon and Britton are less expensive than Rager was. They weren't first-round picks. So he's, this is how he, again, bargain hunting. And, so far so good, I guess, when you have the amount of bodies in those position groups. But, it just revolves around the same topic of discussion with the amount of guys that you have between corner and receiver, that the competition is going to be at an all-time high. And, well, you gotta call it what it is. Rager's on the outside looking in, and he's at a pretty big disadvantage right now.
Listen, Jim, I'll keep it plain and simple for you, man. And clean, I'll say that. If you can eat $33 million in cap for Carson Wentz, you can easily eat $5 million for Jalen Rager. That's where I leave it.
Now, for me, I'm interested in how Rager approaches this. Is he actually going to put in the work, do all that, or is he just going to relax and do nothing? It's all stacked against him, like Lindy said, and I really want to see if Rager can improve, but highly likely it's not going to happen. I think Rager's going to be gone, and he's going to be funny.
There's another suggestion for Rager. I don't know if he would ever consider doing this, but you say JJ's doing it. What about a change of position? So,
running back?
You got to think about it. You got to think about it from this perspective. Now, hear me out on this. The Philadelphia Eagles are in need of a defensive back. And if you look at Jalen Rager's track record of the last couple years, he's done a really good job preventing us from scoring. So maybe he can prevent another team from scoring by lining up at DB and, breaking some passes up.
Hey, they do say cornerbacks
I would give him a chance.
Touch the football.
I'll give him a chance.
You know what I mean? Cornerbacks were wide receivers who couldn't catch the football. So maybe you got something there.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe he can break up. I don't know, man. You never know until you try. But maybe
if we're talking if we're talking realistic right now, Howie's not in the business of just dropping first round picks. I mean, we've been asking for Andre Dillard to get traded for how long now, and he's been on the team longer than Rager has. So it's just not happening. What it's going to boil down to is that Howie is going to do what he can to put Rager in a position to try and build value, so Howie can at least get something for him without taking a cap casualty and cutting him. He's going to eventually want to get something in return. Now, of course, that's not going to happen with a guy like Arcega-Whiteside, because he went through a positional change, and that's more of a last resort type of situation, or he's just going to be out of a job completely since, well, he's on the last year of his rookie deal. So unfortunately it's not the same situation between them two. But all in all, if we're thinking, if we got Howie Vision right now, that's what's ultimately going to happen. He's going to try and find value for him before he pulls the plug completely.
I mean, I hear everything you're saying, but would you really waste it? It's a waste of a roster spot if you think about it. It's like, remember Jason Peters and Darren Sproles. I know those guys were obviously older, but they could not stay healthy, and they couldn't really provide anything to the team at this stage in your career. And if you have like all these wide receivers that are better than Jalen Rager, and you got guys on special teams that are better than Jalen Rager, if you have another hole on the team, like if you could add a safety, if you could add a corner, then I think you do that, because you're not really missing that much with Jalen. But I think you're definitely right about the second part with Howie putting like value on people being a first round pick. I think that's why he won't actually get rid of him in the end.
Well, I mean, think of it this way, Jim. The final 53 cuts aren't going to be done until at least how many weeks before the start of the regular season. So by that point, you can look to the waiver wire. You can see who got released. That's going to be a free agent, much like how we've picked up guys like that in the past before. I can't name anybody off the top of my head at the moment, but other than that, in that case, then you can put it in the aspect of, if it gets to that point, then, well, if there's a team in need of a receiver that like a practice squad body or something, then yeah, that's going to be the point that you're going to want to try and shop Rager. And if you can't get anything for him, then, well, I mean, that's just what's going to happen. But yeah, no, we don't have to. You don't have to go into it like with a sense of urgency, like we can't have this guy on the roster longer than we should. Well, you kind of wait in a sense to see what the rest of the league is going to do, to see if there's going to be an open roster spot for him to have a fresh start somewhere else.
BJ wants to know, what do you guys think about Howie Roseman recruiting a Penn State basketball player to play tight end? Actually, you know what? I don't think it's that bad of an idea. I mean, I feel like one of the most intriguing spots on the Eagles roster this year is the second tight end spot, because we haven't really had this question for quite a few years, because every year it's been Zach and Goddard on the team together, and Zach's traded. He was traded last year, so Zach's no longer here. So now it's Goddard's the clear number one tight end. But who do you got behind him? And you got JJ trying out for tight end. You draft Grant in the 6th round, that's familiar with Jalen. You got Tyree Jackson, that everyone was super duper high on. Unfortunately, he had a bunch of injuries at the end of training camp, and then when he came back, he had another knee injury as well. It just kept piling up for him, and then you're recruiting basketball players. There's a lot of people that play tight end in the NFL. They have basketball at some point in their background. There's a lot of power forwards, high school and college power forwards that ended up being tight ends in the NFL. I think Tony Gonzalez played basketball. I think I'm pretty sure Jimmy Graham played basketball. Like, if you look at the history of tight ends,
Whiteside did.
They definitely played basketball. So at some point here, so I mean, if you're 6'9", 6'10", and you can go up and catch the ball, then hey, that's all. That's pretty much all that we need you to do for only like a few snaps a game, because obviously Goddard is going to start, barring any injuries or anything. So I think that's a very interesting thing to keep an eye on.
Reincarnate a Harold Carmichael at the tight end position. that's what you're pretty much asking for there. If the dude's 6'10", I mean, it just to me, it's just all depends on how well he can run and block. Those are the two things I'm going to have to look for, aside from him being a receiving tight end, much like Grant Calcaterra is. And that's basically the reason why they brought Grant in as a sixth rounder for another receiving target. I mean, yeah, Jack Stoll can do it, but I think he's a better blocker than he is a receiver. Plus, with him being an undrafted free agent, you don't know how high of a ceiling he's going to really have. Although I do trust Jason Michael, the tight ends coach, to get the job done. But nonetheless, it's between Goddard and Calcaterra, they're going to be a nice red zone package. They're, as we know, Goddard being phenomenal as a red zone target. Well, Calcaterra was the same thing at SMU, and if you just put those two together on the field at the same time and do a type of 12 personnel package where you got two big targets floating around in the end zone that can go up and get the ball, then why not? Why don't you do something like that? And let's be real. That's one thing that we've been asking for in Arcega-Whiteside at receiver, and he just hasn't been able to produce. So part of the reasoning of Arcega-Whiteside's switch is trying to use his physicality in the red zone, much like he displayed coming out of college at Stanford, but. You can also connect the dots at the same time as to why they selected Calcaterra. That you could easily say that he's direct competition to Arcega-Whiteside if this is JJ's last resort to keep a job in the NFL.
Yeah, you know what? While you were talking, I was looking up this guy's stats. His name's John Harar. He's 6'9", 240 pounds. He actually averaged a double-double last year, 27 minutes played for Penn State, 10 points and 10 rebounds per game. That's actually not bad. That's actually not bad for a power forward in college. Mm-hmm. And he's big. You know what? Depending on how it goes at rookie minicamp, he's going to be trying out basically at rookie minicamp with as the other rookies are coming in to do some work. I'm really interested with the tight ends, and I'm glad Grizz brought this up. Because JJ, as much as JJ is not a good player, let's face it, he can block. He can block, though. One thing you can't take away from him is he can block. So, I mean, I'm sure he won't get like a bunch of targets, even if he does get brought back up into the game. What's going on, Philly Ace? It might not be the worst idea, man. I mean, don't shoot the messenger, but I don't know. I mean,
I just got one
the whole
thing.
backup tight end spot is open, so it's interesting.
I just got one thing.
Yeah.
Whiteside is extremely small compared to like the defensive lineman. Are we even sure he can block one of those guys? Can he even block?
It would be more. Well, I mean, in that case, Mitch, it would be more of a chip block. He wouldn't be the primary blocker on an edge rusher unless you have a linebacker, dropping down to the line of scrimmage as an extra free rusher. But nonetheless, if you put J-Jaw on the field, you're going to want to see him more as a receiving tight end than a blocking tight end. I mean, you look back to Trey Burton back in 2017. Was he much of a blocker himself? No, because he was of a similar frame. I think he was 6'3", 6'4". He might have been around the same weight as J-Jaw, but it's kind of the same picture when you put two and two together. Although I think at this point I would prefer Trey over Arcega-Whiteside because J-Jaw hasn't played the position, but his body, his body and his build to this point, since he hasn't been successful at a receiver, that could probably benefit him more to this point since he really can't win as a as an X type on the outside, which is something that the Eagles were looking for with him being with his physicality, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, I actually just got something here. Eagles are expected to aggressively pursue free agent cornerback James Bradbury if he becomes available.
I think I
I'm
saw
not
that.
surprised.
It just came out.
Well, if he gets released, yeah, I mean, because they were trying to go get Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah.
How are they going to be a bad move? Like, Bradbury's nothing to write home about. The Giants definitely probably wish they'd never paid him that much money, which is why they're trying to get rid of him.
How much did he get paid again?
I don't remember how much it was, but it was a little too much for him. And
Isn't he expected to make
also went out and paid the guy that played with the Titans, Adoree Jackson. They paid him a lot of money too, but
Right.
it's the second corner. He's a veteran. He's pretty physical. With our pass rush, he probably wouldn't be that bad of a pickup. I would take him, honestly.
I guarantee you he'd be better than Steven Nelson.
He might be.
I guarantee you that.
He might be.
And Steven was blanketed a lot last year to cover up his deficiencies. So I think that's a case where I would trust a guy like Bradbury a little bit more. Although I think he's expected to make $10 to $14 million, something like that. So, I mean, in that case, Steven wasn't paid all that much. So, if you're bringing him in, you have to be. You have to.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
You have to be pretty darn confident in him being a number two. So, yeah, that's the way.
It depends. Are you more comfortable with these young guys being a number two, or are you more comfortable with James being a number two? That's which question you got to ask yourself.
Well, as it is right now, it would look like the pecking order would probably be Zech McPherson as the number two, just based on the investment that they gave a fourth rounder. So,
you know what? I said that too. I said that too in Coach Dante's stream.
Yeah, I don't feel good about that.
I don't either, but look, over Joshua Jobe, I know those guys are good, but McPherson's got something to prove here. He does. I mean, he's been here a year longer than them, and I know they're good, but he's going to fight to hold that spot.
I just don't feel good about. I don't feel good about any of these guys. I don't feel good about any.
I had to pick one.
I don't feel good about a single corner on the whole team besides Slay. I just straight up don't. And one of the biggest reasons I don't is because I know the Cowboys were still playing their starters, and Philly halftime is on live stream. What's up, Philly halftime?
What's up, guys?
The reason why I don't feel good about it, even though the Cowboys was playing their starters in that game, that was the one chance for these guys to prove that, they could actually play. And let's face it, in that game, these guys looked like a bunch of they didn't look like professional corners. They didn't look like they belonged on the field at all. Like, there was nothing you could take away from that game and say, yeah, you know what? This guy could do something if we work with him and develop him. It was just a complete disaster. So I don't feel like it's going to be that much of a deficiency because of how good our pass rush is going to be, but it's definitely a major, major concern.
It's fair. I'm still trying to stay limited in my conversation.
Trying to stay limited?
I'm still trying. I'm still trying. Even though I went in depth for about 10 minutes twice. I can't help myself, but
can't help yourself. Let's see. Is there anything else that happened? Okay, so honestly, how much pressure do you guys feel is on Jonathan Gannon now? Because if you look at all the moves that they made from free agency to the draft, you brought in Hassan Reddick, you brought in Kaiser White, you brought in Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, etc. So you made major improvements on the defense. So That's the one thing that I always brought up. You know, Gannon, I don't love him, but how many real playmakers does he have on that side of the ball? Last year, not too much. This year, it's different. So if our defense doesn't show the major improvement, I would say this guy got to get fired. Like if we have like a bad defense, the guy's got to go. In my opinion.
Now, for me, I agree. Jonathan Gannon's under a tremendous amount of pressure, but you got to look at it like this. How many teams will look at him as a head coach? Because if he wants to become a head coach in this league, he's got to do much better than what he did last year. So
I was surprised he got so many interviews, to be honest.
That's my point. I was shocked. So if he wants a head coaching job, he's got to get it done this year. Because if he doesn't, he won't get a. Maybe
if we have like a top 5 defense, he actually might get a job.
Yeah. So it's on him. It's on him.
Y'all ready to be completely caught off guard?
Like all the time. Go.
You love Jonathan Gannon? You think he should like?
No, I'll say it like this.
You think Jonathan Gannon's going to use Jordan Davis on the screen?
If we're being real here, I don't think there's any pressure on Gannon at all. And just for the simple fact of what you just talked about, Jim, and something
Now
that
there are no playmakers.
Well, something that has plagued Jim Schwartz for how many years, and well, the organization being those involved in the front office with the lack of consideration and bringing players in that their coaches or coordinators want, or however you want to spin it. I think they did more for Gannon than they did for Jim Schwartz, if you really think about it, with the amount of players that he has on the defensive side of the football. What was one of the biggest things that the Eagles struggled with last year because of the deficiencies? Well, because they didn't want to really give up the deep ball all the time, they had to let people run on them whenever they wanted, how they wanted, and their run defense suffered. Another reason is because Brandon Graham went down. So you have injuries. You have injuries at important core positions that really affect how the defensive line works as a whole. Especially when you put into fact that Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave are more so pass rushers than they are in containing the run. So that's when you bring in a guy like Brandon Graham off the edge to really set the tone on that side of the football. And then if you put it this way, with the ever changing evolution of the league, especially at the second level with linebackers, a lot of teams are they're getting out of the old school type of fashion of a linebacker that's big, physical, and intimidating, and they're looking for athletes who can really zoom sideline to sideline and make plays in the open field, or just come off the weak side and get an easy sack on the quarterback. Who does Jonathan Gannon have? Well, he's got Hassan Reddick. He's got Kaiser White. He's got Davion Taylor coming back from injury. You got 3 athletes right there. They drafted Nakobe Dean, who to me is going to be a perfect fit between a Will and a Mike linebacker eventually. I think they're going to cycle him between the Will and the Mike position. When you consider the role that he had at Georgia. They have Jordan Davis along the defensive front, who's going to really, control the trenches in the run defense. You got a Milton Williams in year 2, who is another athletic specimen. When you look across the board, there should be next to no pressure on Gannon at all to execute the scheme that he has defensively, with all the exotic fronts that he wants to do, anywhere from 4-3 to 5-2, some 3-4 mixed in to put guys like Cox at an advantage where he can just settle on, bringing all the heat towards the quarterback. I mean, how else can you spin it here when you realize that, well, I think Gannon has all the pieces that he needs in order to succeed. Now it's just putting his guys in positions to make plays. So I don't think there's really any pressure on Gannon at all to get it done, especially when he has the proper players that he needs to run his scheme.
Well, I mean, the fact that he has all these players, I think that does put pressure on him because if he has
I'm
all
not
these
saying
players and then we don't perform very well, then what are you gonna say? You can't really say that you don't have any playmakers because that's was his excuse for him last year. Now there's no excuse for him. That's what I'm saying.
Well, if there's no excuse, then there shouldn't be any pressure because he has the proper players to run his scheme. So when you put it in that perspective, then he's not in a position where only half of his playbook is open, and he can, and he has the personnel to run some different, different defensive alignments, to make us not look as one-dimensional as we were defensively, because that just makes it easier on the offense to score points. So yeah, I'm not saying that pressure is non-existent. I just don't think there's as much pressure as a lot of Eagles fans are painting it out to be.
So what you think halftime?
I gotta agree with Lindsay. I don't think it's this year that you would have to worry about Gannon going. I think they're going to at least give him 2 years on it. But, I mean, you got to look at Fletcher Cox. He's getting old, and he's not getting off the double team like he used to. But you just got all this. You didn't get all these players to help him out. But I think they're going to give him at least 2 years, this year and next year. And if his defense is still sluggish like it's been, then he'll go. But right now, I think I don't think he has no threat that he's going to go anywhere.
Okay, fair enough. So
Well, I think in all honesty, you can put 2 and 2 together between the offense and the defense and say, well, the amount, there shouldn't be much of a pressure on Jalen Hurts, and you can put 2 and 2 together and say that the amount of pressure that we can say between Jalen Hurts and Jonathan Gannon is probably the same, because, well, you can argue for the offensive side of the football that there's going to be a lot more, there should be a lot more of a dynamic when AJ Brown is your number one, your ex receiver, where he rightfully belongs in this offense, and you can now move Devontae Smith you can move him to the Z. You can cycle Quez in at the Z for some plays. You can put him at the Y if you want. Zach Pascal. There's a better depth involved with this football team, and you can say the same thing on the defensive side. So if you put it that way, then the only pressure that there is the pressure that you put on yourself. So at the end of the day, you can that's where you can connect some of the dots.
Well, what's going on, Coach Dante? Thanks for watching the stream, bro. Appreciate you.
I would have to disagree with you on your offense saying about Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts has a 4-year deal and he only has 2 years left on his contract, which, Gannon is totally different. So, if Jalen Hurts if he keeps staying the way he is, he's going to want more money. He's going to want the $40 million, $45 million in that area. So you can't look at as a coach and as a player. So you can't look at them two guys in the same area, because a player's always getting more money and a coach is way different than a player would be. It doesn't matter if it's Jalen Hurts or whoever. You just can't look as a player for that.
Right.
You got 4 years. You only have 4 years with Jalen Hurts. So if he don't pan out in these 2 years, are you going to still pay him $45 million? Because that's what he's going to want.
I don't think
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
what
I really
has-
don't think it's a fair comparison either because
Yeah, you can't compare the two.
because there's no question that I'm not saying like coaches don't or coordinators don't have any pressure on them because they very obviously do. But you're talking about the quarterback position in the NFL. Like there's no other position in sports that has more pressure than the quarterback, especially in a market like Philadelphia. If Jalen doesn't perform, then we already heard all off season how people wanted Kenny Pickett and all these scrub quarterbacks from the draft. Like this is who people wanted over Jalen Hurts. Like that's how much pressure there is to play in Philadelphia. So I feel like the comparison is just it's kind of two different situations. But I see where you're trying to come from, but it's kind of hard to compare the two of them, in my opinion.
Not necessarily if you look at it in the same light. I mean, would you say that the Eagles have done enough offensively to put a good cast around Hurts? I mean,
100%.
if you're
With A.J.
saying
Brown,
yes to
100%.
that, so if you're saying yes to that, then you also have to say yes in a sense for Jonathan Gannon because, well, if you think of it this way, for one, Jalen Hurts is the quarterback. He's part of the command of the offense. Well, he's the prime command of the defense, but there's still a commanding element between the two in a way if you want to connect the dots that way. But
But a player's
like I
different.
said to the previous topic,
my counterpoint to that would be there's pressure on both of them. There's pressure on both of them. As much as I love Jalen Hurts, and I love Jalen Hurts, if he doesn't perform with this cast around him, then that's it. Like he will not be back next year. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but hypothetically, if it did, you got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, Dallas Goedert, so on and so forth. You have all these great weapons, and you don't do what you're supposed to do. Then yeah, people are going to be saying, yeah, you got to go. Same thing with Jonathan Gannon. You have all these great weapons. You bring in all these guys. We drafted Nakobe Dean. We haven't taken a good linebacker in I don't know how long. You have all these good pieces. So if the defense does not perform, then I feel like people are gonna want him gone. And I feel like I would have no issue with that.
that's fine, but in the case of Jalen Hurts, what pressure is there if you are more comfortable this year with what you have compared to last year? Now it's just on him to take his next step in the evolution of a quarterback. But in order to do that, sometimes you have to have the right personnel around you or to fill it out properly. So in the case of the receiver position, you have the perfect complement between Smith and A.J. Brown where they can settle in their roles properly. And, well, in turn, what happens with that? Well, Devontae Smith is not going to see the number one corner constantly. It's going to be between him or A.J. Brown based on the coverage and the situation and everything else. So if you're going in with a positive mindset and you're Jalen Hurts and you're thinking, well, I got something to work with here. Well, what pressure is there other than the external pressure that people are putting on you when internally you're as comfortable as ever? So
I'm not saying these guys aren't going to make his job easier or anything because sure they will, but this would be the case for any team. Any team that has this amount of weapons, you're expected to win. And we're probably as much as a lot of Cowboys fans don't want to admit it, we're a real threat to come out of this division. So if the success that we have on the field or the players that we have on the field, the success doesn't translate to wins, the blame is going to go somewhere. And it's probably not going to go on Sirianni, and it's probably not going to go anywhere else. So where else could it go but Hurts? I'm just being realistic here. I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan. I'm saying that.
All right, I got to ask you guys a question.
Go ahead.
Because I know this is probably an unrealistic question. I mean, I believe it is. I believe we can all sit here and tell one another that realistically, Jalen Hurts is not a 4,000 plus yard passer a year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah, I
yet.
agree.
He's not going to get
Not right
300 yard games consecutively 6 weeks in a row. He's not going to be that guy. You'll get it in other ways, but you won't get it just truly by his arm, correct?
Yep.
So, what in our eyes truly is a realistic season for Jalen Hurts? Because when I look at it, his completion percentage his rookie year went from 51 to 61 last year. You know, that's a 10% increase. So if he goes to 71, say like I said on my podcast the other week, I said, what if Jalen Hurts comes out and has the same exact season, but his QBR is like 108 and his accuracy is 90? Is that going to be acceptable to you guys? Because his QBR is over 100 and his accuracy percentage is at 90%.
Even though, in my opinion, he'd probably have to have more passing touchdowns. Like, I don't think he'd come out with like 16 passing touchdowns and people would be okay with that.
To me, it's the eye test. Like,
that's true too.
He can't be failing and going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and saying, and then when your defense is like, oh man, we're gassed. Can you at least get like one first down? But that's the eye test would really have to tell you, because he can come out and be Randall Cunningham. He could be Don McNabb. He could be Steve Young. You don't know what he's going to be right now, but you have 2 wide receivers that can go over 1,000 yards this year. So that's got to be a big help for him.
Oh, 100%.
I would also argue that Goddard could go over 1,000 as well.
Right. No, you're right.
But realistically, when you look at Jalen Hurts, though, you're not looking at a quarterback who's going to throw 40-plus touchdowns a year. You might get lucky him getting 30 to 32. You know what I mean? Like
I don't think that him passing like for that many yards. I don't think that the way our team is set up, I don't think that would be the winning formula. I think we need to still stay with a balanced offense, because that's what was the problem. Yeah. We were passing the ball 40 times in the first few games of the season. Then we started running the ball and have more success. So I feel like even though we have a lot of weapons that could do damage, that should only make it easier for us to continue to run the ball, because if you're stacking the box this much and you're leaving AJ Brown and Devontae Smith with one-on-one guys covering them, then I feel like that's a chance for the defense on the other side to get burned.
Jalen Hurts can't be running as much as he did last year, because I said this, Jalen Hurts, you keep on running all he runs, he's going to get hurt. And he already got hurt. This is his first full year, and he already had surgery. I mean, he also has to, play smart.
Fair enough. Speaking of Jalen Hurts, while we're still on the topic with Jalen Hurts, I'm going to play this clip for you guys real quick. I'm sure you guys have already seen it. Jalen was just talking about his approach to the offseason, trying to get better, all that kind of stuff. So I feel like there's a lot of interesting things to take away from it, but I'm going to play the clip right here.
Training approach, in my young career, I've been trying to find out what's my way of doing things in the off season. I've had opportunities to go back to Houston. I've been in Dallas. I've been in Florida. Had the opportunity to go out to Cali. So just a holistic approach of taking the next step as a quarterback, whether that be functioning the offense, running the offense, taking true command of the offense, on the field, in the weight room, what am I eating, how much film am I watching, creating a schedule for myself, and just practicing great discipline in what I do. So I think holistically, I think it's all been helpful. Doesn't matter where I do that at or what state or who I'm working with. I think it's all been beneficial for me this offseason.
So, guys, based off that short clip right there, what was your biggest takeaway as far as Dylan talking about how he's approaching off season, trying to get better, all that good stuff?
He's trying to make him. He's trying to improve himself. He's going the right direction, which I love to hear. I love a guy with that mindset, that work ethic. Just keep on pushing, do that schedule, work on your game, work on your craft. I love the sound of that. I do. We just gotta hope it pays off on the field.
Absolutely.
You always hear the same thing from every quarterback, the same thing that he was just saying, and everybody hopes, and nobody wants to see Jalen Hurts fail. No, they want to, because we have 2 first-round draft picks for next year. I'd like to build around him, not get rid of him and start all over again. But Jalen Hurts, he just has to put it all together. But all those quarterbacks all say the same thing, that they're, trying to put everything together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For me, man, every player kind of gets their own regimen for the off season, what suits them the best way that they know how. He talked about eating healthy. That kind of reminded me a little bit of a Tom Brady influence, maybe. Maybe about longevity, being healthier. I know he did some off-season work with Tom this year, and he probably got in his ear about, like, hey, what do you eat? I want to be able to play till I'm your age, stuff like that. So I think he's just trying to find his way, because everybody has their own way of doing things. Not everybody does the same thing. So, I like it. He's exploring options, and, he'll find what best fits him. So.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's just him taking that next level of maturity as an NFL quarterback and understanding that he is in a situation primed for him. Going through the offseason up until the draft and the constant discussions of, well, are the Eagles going to take a quarterback? And, the constant, bantering and questioning of Howie Roseman on who his quarterback is going to be. And, Jalen understanding that this team is, 100% invested in him, at least for the time being. He can now exert all that focus into, what is going to eventually make him the quarterback that he wants to be, one that is going to be successful and win more games than the team is projected to be. And he just wants to be. He wants to, not just be that from a quarterback standpoint. He wants to be that from a personal standpoint. And that's another thing that he talked about in his press conference, that he doesn't want to just be remembered as an NFL player. He wants to have a bit of a role model, esque type of aura about him and make a difference outside of football. So I think this is just him, evolving as a person, and of course the skill level of him as a quarterback is going to come along with it.
Absolutely, man. I think you guys all made some really good points. I think that Jalen's just he's trying to find what works for him. Kind of like what AK was saying. Every player finds their routine that they like to do in the off season, and then if it goes very well for him, then he's going to continue to follow the same thing. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I think that's something that Tom Brady and all the great quarterbacks have figured out at some point in their career. So I feel like he's just trying to figure out what's the best way to attack the offseason, work on the things he needs to work on, and then try to put it all together on the field. So a lot of players can work out and do everything, but if you don't translate it on the field, then it's not really going to be worth too much. So hopefully Jalen does realize that. I'm sure he does too. So yeah, I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see what type of jump he's going to make going to his 3rd season for sure.
I'm excited for this whole year. I can't wait.
Can't wait. So speaking of that, if you guys had to say right now, meaning if I'm sure we might make another move or two, but if we just kept the players that we got right now and we just went into the season with this current roster, where do you guys see the Eagles finishing record-wise? Do you think we're as good or better than the Dallas Cowboys? And could we win this division?
All right, I'll just start.
Yep.
I can see us getting 10 wins or more. I can see it because we have the easy schedule. 1, 2, our whole team got better defensively, offensively. I mean, it's looking good on paper. On paper, it's good. So,
Yep.
they just can't screw it up. And honestly, I can see that from happening, but who knows? I can see 10 wins, but it's
10
debatable.
Okay.
I agree with Mitch. I think that's where they're at 10 wins. But I do think they could be in our division, top in the division, number 1. And yes, it's only going to be against the Eagles and Dallas. And I just think everybody, when we play them and we're going to win one, we're going to lose one.
Right. So we got the schedule up right here, guys. So obviously we got the NFC East games, but then there's Detroit. There's the NFC North. Obviously Detroit, Chicago. Those are winnable games too. There's Green Bay. That's going to be tough. Anytime you play Rodgers, he kind of torches us. There's Minnesota. There's Jags. Doug coming back to Philly. The Titans. So A.J. Brown will get his chance against the former team. Arizona should be a tough road game. Saints, Steelers. So honestly, yeah, I think you guys are right. I think we could at least win some double-digit games, just based off the fact that our division's not that good, and a lot of the teams that we're playing, there's not a lot of great teams that we got to play this season. So I think it does play in our favor a little bit.
Yeah, no, man, I agree. Listen, 12-5 until proven otherwise. I'm calling it that. Yeah, man, listen, I really like what this team did this offseason. I'm not jumping the gun here when I say this. I kind of am getting that year 2 vibe from Wentz a little bit, and Doug Peterson. Like you can feel the electricity going through the building. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of, motivation and everything. Like these players are excited. They're ready to go. I mean, did you see the look on BG's face, bro? He's pumped. He's ready. He's having fun, and we got a good mix of veterans and young guys. So it's sky's the limit for this team, man. We're only going to go as far as Nick and Jalen take us, in all honesty. But, listen, this kid, he has the dedication to be the best. He said it. He wants to be the best. So, I understand his ceiling is only so high, but you know what? If he can reach that ceiling we think he has, dude, we're going to be set. We're going to be in good shape, so I'm not worried about it, man. I think A.J. Brown's going to bring a different Hurts to the field, if you know what I mean, because they are that close. They're family, pretty much. He is the godfather of A.J.'s daughter, so they're technically kind of family. So they know each other well. I think it's going to be awesome, bro.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at some other quarterbacks in the league, like Joe Burrow, for example, Joe and Jamar, that's his boy. So I think that's a big reason why Joe was able to take, such a big step last year and even leading the Bengals to the Super Bowl. So I feel like AJ could have that type of impact on the Eagles this year. What you got, Lynn?
I'm kind of in the middle, with everybody's records. The first number I thought of was 11 wins. I think they're good enough to be +2 from what they were last year. if you consider that there should be more of a consistency in their game plans between the first half and the second half. There should be a consistency in the play of the quarterback, that he's going to be in the same offensive system consecutively for 2 years in a row now, something that he hasn't had since high school with his father. Like I've talked about the defense and the upgrades that were given to Jonathan Gannon, he should be able to have no limitations on the schematics of his playbook. As does the same thing for the combination of Sirianni and Shane Steichen as tandem play callers. They should be able to open up the playbook a little bit more. Sure, a lot of that's going to be predicated on Jalen Hurts' development, but when you have players at specific positions that have more capabilities than the previous group, then yeah, they're improvement should be expected with a football team when you add all that up into a package. So I think right now the team is good enough for +2 from last year, and they, based on the schedule and when these games are going to be throughout the year, they should be capable of winning 11 games.
I would say I have to agree. I mean, I think that if I had to put a number on it as well, I'm right there with you guys. I'm anywhere between 10 to 12. Anywhere between 10 to 12. Okay. Well, guys, I think that about wraps us up for tonight. I'm just going to go around the table real quick, thanking you guys, obviously, for being a part of the stream, being a part of this channel tonight. Before we get off, I just want to have you guys let everyone know about any podcasts or anything with YouTube related that you guys are working on. So, Lindy, what you got?
I was going to say, you could probably save me for last because everybody knows what's happening tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, yeah, between you three, you guys can probably go, before me, just to make it fair. I know AK mentioned,
yeah, no doubt,
a lot going on, so.
Well, Jim, first off, man, I want to say I appreciate you having me on, man. This is the second time doing some content with you, and honestly, I'd love to do some more because you know your stuff, man, and love talking football with you. No problem.
Out of all the time, I know I'm one of the smartest.
It's pretty good. Pretty good. But yeah, I'm AK Eagles over at AK Eagles Podcast. You can check me out over there. Do a lot of lives. Starting to put out more videos, and it's just a whole lot of fun. I started my channel for YouTubers and content creators to come and just kind of pour their soul out, even whenever it's good or bad. So yeah, appreciate you, man. Got my watch hours. Now I'm just on the road to 1K so I can get my channel monetized. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
There you go.
All right, I guess I'll go next. Hey, it's Mitch Topsy. You can follow me on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. I have my own TikTok now, Philly Talk with MK. People have been pressuring me nonstop to get a TikTok, so I finally got it. People get stop about that. I finally got one.
You got a social media mogul in the building.
Yeah, people keep on telling me I should go to TikTok, and I did just to shut them up. But yeah, you can on YouTube. With Spotlight Sports Network, we have a lot of podcasts over there. We have basketball, football, wrestling. We do all that stuff over there. Yeah, pretty much Eagles, Sixers, NBA play-by-plays. Phillies play-by-plays, I started doing that like a couple weeks ago. And boy, are they – each time when I do it, they win, except for the one time, so I'm fine with it, or twice.
Well, why don't you stop being selfish and start doing more games, Mitch?
You know I can't do Dodgers at 10 o'clock at night.
You have to.
That's past his bedtime.
Yeah, I go to bed at 11. But, anyways, thank you for having me on, man. We do this all the time, so I got to do another round table. It's been a while for me. But, yeah, thank you for having me on, bro. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Anytime?
I'm on Twitter and just YouTube. I just started this year. You can just catch me at Philly Halftime, and I just talk Eagles football, and I try to keep it as real as possible.
It's the best way to be.
Well, I think you guys know. I think you guys already know the deal between us two over here on the left-hand side in the middle. But the evolution of Lindy End Zone continues to grow with the introduction of the podcast of LinkedIn that is going to be appearing tomorrow on Jim's channel, 8 p.m. this coming Friday. Well, tomorrow. Again, I said it twice now. But no, nonetheless, stuck with the slogan Lindy End Zone for the touchdown, taking the lead for the Philadelphia Eagles, one video at a time. But that's pretty much it. Sticking with it every day, and you just gotta, you just have to adapt to having an evolution in yourself. Keep evolving every day, and in the future, I'm looking towards adding some film rooms for the Birds, like I used to for the Mavericks. So be on the lookout for that. It won't be coming anytime soon, but a man's got to do his homework before then. Am I right? Just like everybody does. But yeah, but no, definitely excited for LinkedIn to begin, and gonna be a real treat for everybody. Something different to look forward to.
Both of our teams are in the playoffs, unlike the Bogues. I had to say that.
Oh, that's terrible. Well,
we're gonna get swept. We're gonna get swept. I'm saying that
we're gonna get swept.
Doubles.
I had us losing in 5 originally. I had us losing in 5.
Really?
Hey, you know what? At least I can say my team went down with a crap ton of injuries. What's your excuse?
Doc Rivers, James Harden not playing up to his potential. I can go on.
That's not an excuse.
I mean,
The guy we traded Ben Simmons for.
Yeah.
That is an excuse. And our bench too.
But
well,
yeah,
Luke
guys,
is really
you guys
exposed
can.
on defense, but
You guys obviously know where to find me at. So I got to add LinkedIn to my list of all my things that I'm doing now.
Yep.
I'm also I'm obviously doing the Gauntlet, which is on Saturdays. It's more of an NFL related thing that I'm working on. But you guys can check us out. Check all these guys out. Their links are all in the description below. Appreciate everyone that watched. Appreciate the love. And we will see you guys next time, all right?
Peace.
Yeah.
Peace.